Welcome to the flagship. Today we have Hitman as a guest and Ditch and number one Stunner, who is the Discord community manager or what's the name we
Vice
got?
Vice President.
Vice president, yeah. All right, and we're gonna be talking about the Socom games from the early PS2 days till current day. Well, actually, there's nothing current day except for the private servers. And we got some indie titles. If we have enough time, we'll tackle those as well. So let's get started with number one Stunner. We'll go down the list from the left there to Ditch and then Hitman, and I'll comment last. Let's start out with SOCOM 1.
I
Have you
never
played it?
actually played SOCOM 1. I started in 2. I never went back and visited it.
Never tried them on the emulators?
Never.
Okay, then we'll move on to Ditch.
I will have to say that I was a Christmas noob for SOCOM 1. I had played the demo of it that came with the PlayStation magazine, and up until that time, I was used to just playing like GTA, Vice City, and stuff like that. My wife was sick of hearing all the swearing and language in that game, and so she got me SOCOM for Christmas. And I tried the demo, and I'm like, this game's hard. There's a lot of controls trying to figure out. It seemed complicated.
Did
And I
you
was
start
playing.
with the campaign or just straight to multiplayer?
So I did not have internet. I got a game for Christmas 2002, and I beat the campaign a couple times. Liked the game, moved into a basement apartment, and about 2003, I would say February of 2003, I got online for the first time. We didn't have internet. Wife and I didn't have internet till February 2003. My brother came over and helped me hook it up and stuff, and
Was it dial-up?
No, it was Comcast, I mean, it had to be high speed. I had to go out and buy the network adapter and all that, and just fell in love. I was addicted right away, and I remember the maps, uh, first online game I'd played other than, like, Half-Life and Counter-Strike, the map seemed big and yeah, loved it. Super addictive right there.
Sweet. All right, Hitman. Any
Um,
experience playing the first?
yeah, I started with SOCOM 1, which is still my favorite. I think it was probably November of '02. So I was a little late, and I didn't get it at launch, but I had never heard of it, and I had gotten the network adapter to try out Tribes Aerial Assault and online, and then I was looking for something a little more tactical, and I was standing at a Target store, and I was looking at both Ghost Recon and SOCOM 1, and I was like, I know nothing about SOCOM. I didn't know that I was going to be a third person fiend. And a friend of mine called me on my cell phone while I was standing there looking at it. And he goes, me and my brother just bought this game called SOCOM Navy SEALs, and it plays online. And you want to try it? And so a circle of our friends clanned up and played, and we were off to the races.
Now, how did you go from a game like Tribes, which is fast paced, sliding around, and to liking SOCOM, which is tactical? What made you want to make the switch over?
I was real big into cooperative games. I grew up with brothers and cousins that liked to play like GoldenEye and things like
Yeah.
that. And it got to the point where nobody wanted to play anymore because there was one or two people, and I was one of them that would just whip everybody else. And I'm not saying that to brag. I learned to use the little yellow C buttons very early on, and I could strafe people, and they didn't know how to do that with a single stick controller.
Oh, well, you
So
played as Odd Job.
no, 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 of course not. But Slappers Only was my forte because I got to run circles around everybody, and they didn't know how to do that. So, um, cooperative was the name of the game for me, and going from a frenetic, fast-paced shooter to something that was a little bit more like crouch around and work with your team was it was right up my alley. It was what I was looking for, and I didn't even know it.
Okay, now the online portion you said you played for SOCOM 1, right? Did you play
Yeah.
the single player as well? Did you finish that?
I did both. I don't have a crazy good memory like Ditch does about beats of the campaign, but I went straight to. I did do it, but I went straight to online first.
Okay. So I
Right
never
on.
actually owned SOCOM 1. I had a cousin that brought it over, and he brought Hitman 2 Silent Assassin at the time. So I tried it out. It was hard. I was 13 or 14 years old. I can't remember exactly, around that age. And I tried the first level in the ship. I'm like, oh, it's too difficult. And then I ended up playing Hitman, beating Hitman, coming back and playing SOCOM, and eventually finished the single player. I did own AT&T DSL at the time, so by the time we got a network adapter, I don't know how many months later, I tried the game online, and then my cousin saw it. He saw me play it, and one of the first maps I remember seeing was Frostfire. And then he played it, he got addicted, he took back his game, and he took it, and I never saw it since.
Uh,
So, well, since the private servers now. So that's my experience with SOCOM 1, which is why I didn't really grow as a fan for that game. But I did like that it had the headset incorporated with it. So when he brought it over, he left that there. So putting it on, I was so amazed, like, whoa, you can talk to the game and get all these commands to come up. It was something new for its time.
Yeah, I had friends that would play Joint Operations, which was a Nova Logic game, and Battlefield 2 and SWAT 4, and they were using like the Roger Wilco and TeamSpeak and things like that, I think. And I didn't
Yeah,
get into PC gaming, so like to have the headset, even with push to talk, was pretty cool.
I was ahead of its time with the voice commands for the team and how well it worked.
And I think that's why I wasn't good at the game, because I was playing without the team trying to rush, and I kept dying. And then later on, when he showed me the headset and the commands, then I started playing the campaign over, and I beat it working as a team with the AI team.
This is a little off topic, but do you guys remember when Manhunt came out, and if you had the SOCOM headset and you were wearing it while playing it, it would actually incorporate your voice into the game to where you could like whisper at people and stuff?
I did not know that, and I did play Hitman. I beat the first, Hitman. I did play Manhunt. I beat the first one. But
No.
that's crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't beat the second Manhunt yet.
I didn't play it, but my college roommate did, and I remember
censored.
him using his SOCOM headset.
That's pretty cool. I did not know that exists. All right. Anyways, let's move on to SOCOM 2. Did you play that, number one?
That was the one I started on back in like 2004-ish. I was a 10-year-old, and that was pretty much the first multiplayer game I'd ever played. Besides, like, we talked about GoldenEye earlier, playing
And you
that,
played it
like, split
online?
screen. Yeah. Played it. I was on with the clan. We just played Fishhook. I was the only map we played.
Single player?
Single player, I did beat all the missions, but I've never been a campaign type of person. I've always just gone straight for online.
Wait, 22 maps and you only played one?
Yeah. Sometimes I would switch off Crossfire and play Seals, and
You
like
missed
I
a
just
lot of
rush.
good maps.
Did you own the
I
game?
always played that. I played the other maps. We just whenever I was playing with my clan, that's all they wanted to do was terrorist on Fishhook. And they'd all run that shotgun, and we would just rush.
M3 auto shotty.
Yeah, that was our game.
All right. What about you, Ditch?
So it just cracks me up. You're playing that one map over and over.
Yeah.
So we were all playing SOCOM 1, me and my clan. I remember like some guy on the East Coast, he got the game the night before us. We've been looking in the PlayStation magazine at SOCOM 2. And throughout the summer, I mean, the cheating has just gotten worse and worse and worse. If you notice, before every SOCOM came out, the cheating got really bad right before the next release.
Wow, that sounds like Call of Duty nowadays with like Black Ops 2.
And I was
Modern
always
Warfare
a bit of
1.
a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, I bet Sony's like, letting some of these cheats get out of hand, so people will push to buy the next game.
Like phasing out an iPhone.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Right now,
Yeah, and
Meta's doing that with Meta 2 to 3. They're slowing down Meta 2 VR headset. But I know that's off topic.
Really?
Yeah. But I was like,
Yeah.
maybe true, maybe it's my imagination, but it seems like with every SOCOM, as you look back on them, if you'll remember, the cheating just got like horribly bad, so you'd want to buy the next one. And you're right, it is like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You play that, the cheating just got horrendous. But anyway, getting back to SOCOM. So we were playing SOCOM 1, and back in the day, you had like your server. We played the Italia server, my clan, and it was cool because everybody in the server knew each other. And so when SOCOM 2 came out, it was a little bit different. We're like, oh, they don't have like, they tell you how do you find each other. And these guys in our clan had gotten the game the night before us. And they're like, dude, it's got shotguns, it's got mounted guns, it's got night vision, it's got thermal vision, it's got, well, you had night vision in SOCOM 1, but they're like, it had thermal vision. And it sounded so cool. They're like, it has grenade launchers and rocket launchers. And all that stuff wasn't in the multiplayer of SOCOM 1, it was in the campaign. Now, people could cheat in SOCOM 1 and get this gun. I think it was called the OICW or something like that, and had a grenade launcher on it. People would use that online on SOCOM 1 and cheat with it. So SOCOM 2 comes out. It was cool, but we're like, yeah, the health bar is kind of weird because now you know how much health you have. Where in SOCOM 1, you got hit, you're like, I don't know how hurt I am. And in SOCOM 1, if you got hit, you took damage. Where in SOCOM 2, even you go play it now, you get hit sometimes, you don't take damage. You'll see blood spray off a guy, and he's like, yeah, I still have full health. SOCOM 1 wasn't like that. You get hit, you know you're hurt, but you don't know how bad you are.
So
The
are you saying
2,
it was
ahead.
better hit detection, SOCOM 1 versus SOCOM 2?
way better. Night
Yes,
and day.
absolutely.
SOCOM 1's hit detection. Yeah, SOCOM 1 hit detection is way better. SOCOM 2 had more maps and it was fun. It was a blast. And you play the single player campaign, and you had to play the campaign to unlock certain characters and skins in the multiplayer, which was kind of cool.
2 was like that, wasn't it?
That's what I'm talking about. SOCOM
Yeah.
2, you had to beat like
Yeah,
you get the
there was
Navy
that-
SEAL
that
chick
black
or like
seal,
Fujo and
right?
Shadow Falls. Yeah.
Oh.
That chick with the raspy voice.
A
So
lot of this went into SOCOM 3.
we
but
got
I'll get to
addicted
that.
into SOCOM 2, but SOCOM 1 I liked better, but like all my friends had migrated on the SOCOM 2. And if you go back to SOCOM 1, it was so full of cheaters, it was pretty much unplayable unless you had a private
Right.
group.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
got it.
history lesson.
I got it release day. So that was the same day that I can't remember if it was The Matrix 2 or 3, but The Matrix 2 or 3, whichever movie it was, released worldwide at the exact same time. And so the wife and I went at like 5 or 6 in the morning. I took the day off of work for my birthday. My birthday was a couple days prior. See, for me, it released on November 5th, 2003. I took the day off of work. The wife and I went at like 5 in the morning, went to the Matrix. After the movie, we went to the mall to EB Games. And I stood in the mall at EB Games, and I remember this like it was yesterday. I stood there at their little kiosk and played the demo game to SOCOM 2 until like the FedEx guy walked in with a hand truck and my copy of SOCOM was there. Grabbed it, took it home, jumped online right away, and just played all day and all night that day.
That's badass. Good times.
It was a blast. First map I played was Shadow Falls. Oh, and the dancing. Dancing was introduced. So in SOCOM 1, people would, they teabag and run and dive and lay down and get up and crouch on people over and over, like prone crouch, prone crouch. I get into SOCOM 2, and the first thing I saw in Death Trap was the first time I saw somebody dance, and he did the backflip. I jumped into the game. I was spectating. My wife was sitting next to me. She started laughing. She's like, he's really dancing. She's like, what you guys all did, the developers put that into the game. We thought it was the funniest thing ever that they
That's
were like
awesome.
actually dancing on people and doing backflips.
I didn't know SOCOM 2 was the first to do that. I didn't pay attention even when we were playing. Oh, wait. You know what? I barely played SOCOM 1 on the emulator.
SOCOM 1 didn't have that. You could grab their gun off their body, or you could go like lay prone and crouch and teabag them, but that was it. The
Yeah.
dancing was hilarious. It did have taunts in SOCOM 1, but it did not have the dancing.
Okay, let's move on to Hitman.
Yeah, I did play
Thanks,
SOCOM
Ditch,
2.
though. That was a really good history lesson.
Hey, Ditch, he's like Mega Mind over there, and he remembers every little detail.
Yeah, it's awesome. He needs to go and wake Sony the fuck up.
Yeah,
Oh,
no
not
joke.
that- Go ahead.
So yeah, I'm like Ditch in the fact that I preferred SOCOM 1, and but all my friends migrated over, and it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, same modes plus more game modes, okay, same weapons plus more, same maps plus more. What could go wrong? And I never played it, but there was actually a public beta, well, I don't know if it was public, semi-public beta test where the hit detection was very much more like SOCOM 1. And I'm not trying to pull that from the ether. That was actually playable again about 2 years ago. One Up had a server running the beta, the S2 beta, and it's night and day difference gameplay wise. And I believe it's because of the hit detection. I don't know if you can blame it on netcode or whatever else, but it did play a lot more like the original, and it leads one to wonder why that didn't make the final cut.
There's always someone on the development team that's responsible for ruining something that might seem little, but affects the whole game.
I'm Travis
Yeah.
Steiner, lead designer. Oh, real quick, I should have said the maps. Okay. SOCOM 2 had all the SOCOM 1 maps plus SOCOM 2 maps, but they altered a few of the SOCOM 1 maps. Rat's Nest, they made
Right.
nighttime and they closed off areas of the map. They changed the flow of the map. They added little half walls in that you could jump over, but it was kind of awkward. They blocked off a wall and a ladder where you could go down. And then Death Trap, they completely changed where the hostages were. Now they're in that little room in the corner. In SOCOM 1, you come down that ramp, and there was a hallway behind that ramp. You could go right or left and access a hall, and the hostages were in a little pocket back there. They changed that, and then they took Abandoned, which was my favorite SOCOM 1 map, and they made it nighttime. And it was like so dark.
And they
I didn't
added
even
the
play it.
PKM turrets too.
They added the turrets, but the big change was making Abandoned Night, which some people liked. I didn't. It was just so dark I couldn't play, and it changed. They changed a couple of the maps the way that they played. Oh, and then Frostfire. A lot of people didn't realize in Frostfire you couldn't access the other tunnels. So if you go down tunnel 25 by the terrorists, right, you couldn't access. You have that ladder that goes up to the catwalk to there. That's where it
Yeah.
ended. You couldn't go over and come up underneath where that ramp comes up underneath the computer room balcony. You couldn't go from there over to like the terrorist spawn. You could only go and come out over there by the flare where the flame is coming out, you know. That was
Right.
different in SOCOM 1.
Was
And
it more
SOCOM 2, they opened
balanced,
it up.
you think?
It just changed it. It gave you like more options when you go down. Like, oh, I know this guy has to come up here or here, and now it's like, oh, they can come up anywhere in the map because now the tunnels all connect. Where in SOCOM 1 they did not connect. It just changed it. I won't say it's better or worse. It's just different.
Did
I
they
think I
add any
preferred
new
them
maps?
connecting.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
I always preferred the tunnels connecting than having it blocked off.
Oh yeah.
It definitely led to a lot less stalemates.
That makes sense. Did they add any new maps in SOCOM 2 compared to SOCOM 1, or
They had
No,
the
they just
I mean-
revamped?
2 DLC.
Well, they had the SOCOM 1 maps, but then they added SOCOM 2 maps, like Crossroads, most overrated map ever. Great map, but it's way overrated. Crossroads was a SOCOM 2 map. That's where it was introduced. Fishhook, your favorite map, Fishhook, that you played over and over.
Yeah.
That was added in SOCOM 2.
Sujo,
Sujo,
Anawapi.
Anawapi, Shadow Falls, the Mixer, a lot of them. I think what SOCOM 1 only had, 8 maps or something like that?
I
There
believe it
a
was
lot of
10.
maps on SOCOM
Was
2.
it 10 or maybe they added?
SOCOM 1 was 10, and then SOCOM 2 added 12 more plus 3 DLC, if my numbers are correct.
Yes. Yeah, the DLC was awesome. You would buy the PlayStation, you had to get the 40 gig hard drive and then buy the PlayStation magazine. That came with a demo disc that had After Hours on it, like the Korean subway map. And then the next month, you'd buy the
What?
PlayStation magazine, and that came with Liberation. And then the third month, you'd finally get Last Bastion, that freaking huge map. And that
Yeah,
was the
so
3 DLC maps.
For
And it was awesome.
clarity, it says online 10 maps on SOCOM 1 and 22 on SOCOM 2 with 3 additional DLC.
There you go. I don't know why I said 8. I have a bad memory.
Vindicated.
This is all making sense why SOCOM 2 was everyone's favorite back then. Cause so I got the game from Blockbuster and I tried to play the single player. I thought it was funny in the beginning. They mentioned how Boomer died or he blew up somehow trying to play with a mine, and then they had some new leader of the Alpha Squad, and it was Spectre. But I don't know if you guys realized that in the campaign. But anyways, I tried playing it. I probably got to like the 5th level, and then just stopped because I had limited time. I only had it rented for a week, and then I played online, and all I remember is it was crazy fun, a lot of havoc going on, and I was jumping from rooftop to rooftop, and then that was it. That was my only SOCOM 2 experience until
Really?
yeah, and I wasn't big on SOCOM. That's why until SOCOM 3. And every time I'd hear it from the fans, oh, 2's better, 3's the downfall. Oh, screw this game. I would wonder, what? What do you mean 3's massive?
A lot of
So-
people didn't realize that SOCOM 2 at its peak was pulling more gamers online at one time than the entire Xbox Live service, and this was at a time when Halo 2 was available to play.
I used to
Oh.
have that magazine. It's
Mhm.
yeah, it's what Hitman just said. PlayStation SOCOM 2 had more concurrent players than the entire Xbox Live library combined.
So you
And,
could kind of say 3 was the downfall of the player.
I remember logging in,
Safe
and there'd
to
be like 65,000 people online. Any
Did you
given
know what
time.
else SOCOM 2 brought that another big one was progressive scan because everybody was going from tube TVs to the flat screens, and SOCOM 2 was the first one that you could play in, what was it, 720p?
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm gonna.
SOCOM 3 was weird, man. When it came out, it was it was cool. You're like, oh, it has vehicles now. This is gonna be a little bit different. It got away
Yeah.
from like the close intimate battles, but it was weird because I always thought SOCOM 1 and 2 looked great. SOCOM 3 looked a little different. It was kind of weird and the modular. You had attachments on your guns that would affect them a little bit differently. They changed the guns. Like, it's third person, same camera view, same game modes, familiar maps, but the way the game felt and played was a little bit different than the verse 2.
Yeah, they took the bigger maps and just cut them down into small pieces, and that's how they were trying to say, oh, here you go, SOCOM 2 fans. This is how we're gonna please you. But
Yeah.
the reason I became a big fan of SOCOM 3, I mean, I was 17 at the time, and that's when I could buy my own game. I can afford my own money. I was working for actually a trucking company where you fill up a bunch of like over 5,000 cases for them to go on delivery the next morning. And well, it relates to SOCOM 3, but I was playing Battlefield 2 a lot, so I liked the vehicles, the big maps. And when I got this game on PS2 that had big maps and vehicles, I saw the vehicles as, okay, they're stale, but they're still fun. And then there was this convoy game mode, which we just had a blast playing with some of my friends, and it related to my job, so it was kind of funny playing that. But what I really liked about it was the vehicles, the big maps, and even though we did have some small map gameplay, I didn't really like the small maps run and gun, because people would glitch out of the map and just run down the clock or hide somewhere in the bigger part of the maps. And SOCOM 3 did have a lot of glitches. People would go underground. I remember they'd go through walls. It was easier to go through walls.
Those big maps, there was so much camping that happened. They would just hide somewhere and just taunt. That's all I
Yeah,
remember.
Some of the ghillie suits would turn invisible too at certain ranges.
That's true. Yeah, there was a lot wrong with it, but it was my first experience with SOCOM, which is why it became my favorite. But now playing the emulator, I see exactly what you mean, Ditch, where SOCOM 3 had a lot of random hit detection. It kind of reminds me of like CS Source to CS:GO, where CS Source you can run and gun and your shots are right there. They're accurate. They're gonna kill someone, but then in Go you have to stop and you have to, because if you're moving while shooting, there's a certain pattern you have to follow to get a headshot. And that's how I feel like SOCOM 3 is. There's a pattern, but it's also random.
So
And-
from Oh, I'm sorry. Go
2
ahead, Stealthy.
wasn't. And yeah, that was it. But when I'm playing 2 now with the emulator, where I'm putting my aimers, where I'm hitting the target. That's how I feel.
I think one of the, unless I misunderstood, I believe I remember that those SOCOM games, the PS2 ones, they had this staple where your first shot out of an assault rifle was always perfectly accurate to where you were aiming. And it kind of goes to show that the hit detection wasn't potentially that important for them because it wasn't a run and gun game. It was the type of game where whoever fires the first shot has the advantage. Also, I wanted to say about SOCOM 3 while I have the mic. That's the one that could cross sync with the PSP. And so they had unlockables across the PSP, and then they also had Fireteam Bravo come out on the PSP. So even though a lot of people take a dump on SOCOM 3, in terms of marketing, distribution, and promotion, it was kind of the heyday of SOCOM. It was going cross-platform, Sony side, and they even tried to appeal to the original SOCOM gamers who had been complaining about too many kids playing SOCOM 2 because no kids played SOCOM 1. It was too difficult. That most people didn't have broadband, at that point anyway. By SOCOM 2, that the wave of Christmas players had come along, and a lot of them were squeakers. If you remember, we used to call them squeakers. And so they were complaining. So SOCOM 3, if you recall, at launch, you had to use a credit card to verify
Yep.
your identity.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was a way to keep them, it was a way for them to gatekeep you from making multiple usernames and trolling people, but it was also a way for them to make sure that it was more of an adult audience. So of course, a lot of the folks that were probably your age at the time, Stealthy, that may not have had a bank account yet, or just
Credit card. I used my dad's.
yeah, it was, they charged $1 if I remember correctly. A lot
Yep.
of people complained about that, and they ultimately did away with it. But the guys that were our age, me and Ditch's age, we didn't give a crap. We were like, oh yeah, this is good. All right, cool. This is going to keep the. We didn't want the community to
We thought it would
be.
keep the cheating down.
Yeah, and we didn't want it to be massively bloated. It wasn't a game where you wanted more targets to shoot at. It was a game where you wanted more camaraderie, and you wanted people that were committed to an experience, not just coming in and grinding.
Yeah, I agree. And it did have a lot of
Trolling with team
rooms.
killing and other shit.
Ironically, this many years later, and one of our favorite things to do is to go on the emulator and troll the crap out of people.
What about? Sorry, I missed the troll the SOCOM 3 community or
No, just the the servers now.
all the one up. All right,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
dive into the issues
Any
with
of 'em.
that after the at least after we get through confrontation. But I did
Alright.
want to mention I did talk to someone at Game Informer at the time, gave it a 6 I think out of 10, while he was praising like every Xbox game, and I got into an argument with him, I remember. And I was just telling him, like, you're giving Halo all these ratings because of, like, Bungie.net, when SOCOM 3 has all this built into the game. It has its forums built into the game. It has its leaderboards. It has
In
its
the main
ranking
menu, there's a
system.
forum.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And then eventually got DLC, and it had rooms where only certain ranks could get into these rooms and play there to increase their rank, to really show you how good someone was. And they didn't mention any of this in those Game Informer reviews, and they just shit all over the game because they praised mostly Xbox and Bungie and Halo at the time. So I remember getting into a really heated argument, eventually just cussing him out. I was a lot more immature. Eventually
I remember-
apologized to the guy, but
I remember going to LAN parties back in the day at my buddy's house. LAN parties playing Halo, and I'd be
Same.
playing SOCOM all night, and then I'd go over and play Halo, and I did pretty good. And I was like, "What's with this? You guys need like health regeneration and a little radar to show you where the enemies are. That's pretty cheap. We don't have that crap in SOCOM." And they're like, "Oh no, it's not health regen. It's a shield regeneration." I'm like, same thing."
that's true. So what's your experience with SOCOM 3, Ditch? And then we'll go to Stunna FT.
I think it was Stunna's turn after Hitman.
Yeah, we
Um,
kind of did it in reverse, but whoever wants to share there.
Socom 3 was my favorite.
Oh,
Had
so we're in agreement.
like I said, the only thing I found that I didn't like was the camping on the big maps.
Did you play the campaign
I
Oh, the
did.
campaign was amazing. Yes.
where they went down and found Saddam Hussein in a hole in the ground?
SOCOM 3, like the gun customization was kind of nice. But the one thing is that the maps suck compared to the previous games. They're not iconic. So
Yeah,
it was
but didn't SOCOM 3 have all of the 22 previous maps plus more?
I had some DLC maps with SOCOM 2, I do remember, and that's
That's
the
what
first
it
time I
was.
think I played Crossroads.
It
But
doesn't.
all
SOCOM.
these
I
new
don't think it
games
has
are trying
all
to
of them.
recreate games, and they're
Potawatomi and Shadow
making
Falls are
the
missing.
originals. They're not making the SOCOM 3 maps.
Huh. That's a good point. So let me ask you this: if SOCOM 3 was your guys' favorites, why wouldn't Combined Assault necessarily be? It was the same multiplayer
Combined
component.
Assault was like the same thing, besides that they took the blood out.
They
Which
added
was
co
the
Oh,
op.
I
big
forgot
thing.
about that. But then they added a 4-player co-op.
They made
That
it
was
a
And
a big
ma-
draw for me.
instead of an M rating.
Well, they added one of my favorite maps. I really like the snow map with Prowler and the tank battles. So that was one thing I liked about it. And
But SOCOM
it was
3,
one of the
that was like my prime for my competitiveness. That was like the best I was ever
yeah.
gonna be. It was
And
in
if you
that one.
notice, Zipper was always ahead of its time. Like they added co-op with achievements at the time, and then later on it became a big thing with Xbox. Actually, I'm not sure. I think 360 was out by the time Combined Assault came out, but it was the first time I experienced achievements
And like
on a
I
PS2.
bought my PS3 at launch pretty much like the first month it came out, but there was no game, so I was playing SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault still on my backwards compatible PS3
I was
for
too.
like a year or two for quite a while before like Warhawk and all those other games came out.
Yeah, you reminded me. I was in a clan called Shadow Elite Mercenaries, which was our clan leader was in the Marines at the time. So when he'd go to tour and then come back, that's when we'd have our clan battles. And one thing what happened why we broke apart was he eventually got a 360, and a lot of the other guys bought a 360, but I couldn't afford a 360. So they started playing Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. And yeah, that was just the moment I wanted
That
to
was
share.
a good one.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I followed friends to the 360, to Modern Warfare 4, and Ghost Recon as well. In
Well,
fact, I missed the whole PS3 SOCOM era completely. So
Really?
Yeah,
that
You
should
didn't play
cut down
Con?
our talk time. Huh?
You didn't play Con when it came out?
I've never played it.
we'll get to
Oh.
confrontation. I just want to know Ditch's opinion on SOCOM 3 and how much of it you played.
I got 3 when it came out, and I think they were trying to grab the Battlefield players with the bigger maps and the vehicles. And at that time, was it 2005 and 2005?
2005 and Combined Assault was the
Battle
year after.
Battlefield 2 Modern Combat came out, and that game was awesome. First Battlefield on a console, I think. At least the first one I ever had on a console, Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. And SOCOM 3 came out and it had bigger maps, it had vehicles. They started calling the terrorists mercenaries. And then I liked
Remove
that
the
there
blood.
was. What's that?
Remove the blood, right? Are you talking
No.
Combined Assault?
SOCOM 3 had blood, but they called the terrorists mercenaries now, and I'm like, that's kind of
Did
odd
they?
because
Oh,
yeah,
are you sure? I
started-
thought it was still terrorists in SOCOM 3.
and in Combined Assault, they took off blood.
Yep.
No, that's when they call them mercenaries in Combined Assault. Because 3, I think, called them terrorists.
Did
It
3
wasn't
call them
until
terrorists?
yeah, it wasn't until Combined Assault. They
No, but
changed
you could if you could play the same multiplayer combined. Someone could play SOCOM 3 with that disc, and you could play Combined Assault disc, and you could
That's true.
still log into the same multiplayer. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure
Oh
it
yeah,
wouldn't have changed between.
Yeah, but you couldn't see
you could play
blood.
them together, but like the SOCOM 3 players could see blood, the Combined Assault couldn't. The
Yep.
co-op was cool, and I liked the crosstalk. How what you did in the PSP games affected what you did on the console. Like a part of the mission would be done or something like that, or you'd collect sausages and it would have like little things done in the other mission for you, vice
Yeah.
versa. I thought that was kind of cool.
Was
I
that
had
Fire Team Bravo 1 or 2? Sorry to cut.
I
That was
had Fire
one.
Team Bravo. Yeah, I didn't have one. I had two. But I thought that was a cool feature.
Was
that they
2 the
didn't add.
crosstalk one or Fire Team Bravo 1? I thought it was 1.
It might have been one. I didn't have one though. I just had two, and I
I
thought
think
that
it
was
was
kinda
2 because
cool.
I didn't have one either. I never played one till today.
I mean, one could have had it. I didn't own that game, so I don't know.
Yeah. But 2 also had it. The
Combined
cross.
Assault was fun playing co-op with friends. I thought that was kind of a cool feature. You didn't have to just play versus. I'm like, it'd be fun to play through the campaign with somebody. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, but unfortunately we didn't get the campaign in co-op. We just got these extra side missions.
Yeah, the co-op was good.
Yeah, okay, let's go to Confrontation. Number 1 Stunner. Did you have a PS3 with Confrontation?
So with confrontation, I played in the beta and I was not impressed, so I never ended up buying it. And then I just ended up playing like Call of Duty 4, Warhawk, Resistance, all these other games made up for it.
Warhawk
Oh,
was super bitching.
And
you
then
never got it after all the fixes?
no, and then when the emulator came out, I went and played it on
Oh.
my 60-inch in HD. It was all right, but like I don't know, just
With a PS... Oh, you said emulator, so on PC.
on the PS3.
Wait, Oh, you mean the 1UP server?
No, Snakes. PS3 one.
Snake's PS3... Wait,
Confrontation
I'm
server.
confused. Oh yeah, so isn't it Snake and 1UP that work on that server?
Snake and 1UP are kind of opposing each other. Snake got confrontation working.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
So
Alright,
yeah, I
Ditch,
never really was a big fan of Confrontation. It just felt too different. I don't know.
okay, that's fair. And I do agree the beta was a mess. Ditch?
So I never had the beta for confrontation, but I do remember confrontation coming out. They had their website. They had the gun of the week, which was really cool. If you were following that every week, the skinny old dude, they'd go out in the desert and they'd show the guns they were recording, the microphones and the cameras, the guns, keeping you up to date with what's going on with the game. They're like, after the game comes out, every quarter we're going to have DLC. And don't quote me on that. I don't know if it was every quarter or every 6 months, but they're talking about having regular DLC coming out for the game. It was going to be a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was like gonna be 4 DLCs, I think.
And they were talking about, you're going to tell if you come around a corner if somebody's been there, the bullet casings are still going to be on the ground. They'll roll down hills. Like, this is going to be really
Over-promising.
cool. A lot of cool things. And so, dude, I was hyped for the game. I was like, I can't wait for another SOCOM. It's been forever, and the graphics were looking pretty good. And I remember right before it came out, I hosted a scenario paintball game, and I wrote up all these rules and how to transform SOCOM into paintball. Because even back in SOCOM 1, I thought, dude, it'd be a blast to play SOCOM on paintball in real life. And so I hosted a game. We had hostage extract and bomb plant. I had a Nerf football with a kitchen timer in the middle of the map in a bag. And I had people volunteer to be hostages and referees and all this crap.
That's
So
bad.
to plant the bomb, your team had to grab the football and the kitchen timer, run to the other team's base, and I had these wooden boxes that I built with hasps and combo padlocks. You got to twist it, get the padlock open, put the bomb inside, turn the referee twists the kitchen timer to 3 minutes, puts it in there, and the player locks it, and then everybody shouts and announces bomb planted 3 minutes.
But we
And
actually have that here in Michigan. We got one for laser tag and one for paintball with a bunch of maps.
And then we
Okay,
had
you could-
hostages. We had volunteers dress up in costumes and be hostages or VIPs. And if you shot the VIP, you just committed suicide. So that's your penalty for shooting a VIP is you're dead and you have to go back to your dead box. Because I was thinking, how do I convert this to SOCOM where you don't want to shoot the hostage, right? And dude, over 100 people came. I even had a vendor come and sell paintballs and equipment and air and all that. I mean, it was super awesome. So the day comes for the game to be released. I'm excited. I have this huge paintball game in advance for it. Looking forward to SOCOM. I take like a 2-hour lunch break. I was an electrician at the time, and we were working near my home. for my lunch break, I go pick up Socom Confrontation. I go home. Now I got to install the game. Takes forever to download it and install it. Turn it on, and it freezes. I get black screens. The sound cuts out. People join the room and leave the room. It freezes. Sound cuts out. And I think I had to install it like 2 or 3 times to get it to actually work. I was pissed, dude. That first year the game came out, I probably played it like
Unplayable.
once a week or so, and I'd just be too frustrating because it would freeze your console. It would do all kinds of weird
Yeah.
stuff. After 9 months, they finally fixed the game, and the Cold Front DLC came out, and it had
Yep.
some of the old SOCOM maps in it. And the game was finally playable after 9 months, but still didn't have everything that was supposed to be in it. It had good graphics. The game, when it worked properly, it was pretty cool, even though the lean mechanic was messed up and some other issues with the game. You go play it now, and you're like, you know what? Compared to what we have now, this is pretty cool. But back then, dude, we were pissed. The game sucked. I mean,
Because it
sucked
was
like
nothing
garbage.
like the other ones.
I mean, it was similar, like an updated version, but it was different. But to me, SOCOM Confrontation felt like a broken SOCOM, where I played the beta to un-SOCOM 4, and it didn't feel like SOCOM at all. At all. Did not feel like SOCOM. You didn't even get a freaking pistol. They dick teased you by having a pistol on the loading screen and on your hip, but you can't use it in the game, and you got 2 primaries.
We're moving ahead. We'll get to SOCOM 4 then.
Yeah.
All right,
salty
Hitman.
over on SOCOM 4.
Yeah, Hitman, what was your confrontation experience?
I never played it.
At all.
No, it didn't have a campaign, and they had so many launch issues. I didn't have a PS3. I had an Xbox 360, and it was at a time when it was like one or the other, budget wise. And I wanted, it seemed like it had like the home support that they had, where you'd have like the planning desk and all that. That was stuff I'd always wanted to see in a game in a series like
Oh, it
SOCOM.
never worked out. Trust me. I mean,
No,
home sold
yeah.
good, but
Nobody ever used it. And do you remember when the Sea Snipers did their whiteboard on their website? The Sea
don't.
Snipers, they hosted a competition called SEAL, SEAL, and one of their main guys was a graphic designer who ultimately he ended up doing the SOCOM 2 maps for the Prima user guide. And one of the things he also did was they did a whiteboard where those maps could be loaded in on their website, and they charged you had to pay for it, and you could do all kinds of icons and stuff and route things, kind of like Google Maps is today, but with SOCOM maps. It was really cool. That's the kind of thing I was looking for, kind of a Rainbow Six-ish kind of planning thing, add a little bit more teamwork to it if you wanted it. But with the launch issues, no offline, like I remember seeing that if the server wasn't available, you didn't even get into the main menu, and that was not a step I was willing to take at the time. So I didn't. I always liked Slant 6 games. I always thought they had a lot of potential, but going from Tactical Strike on the PSP, which was not that impressive, and then that game, and then having the launch bomb it wasn't a drama I was willing to get into, and never went back to.
yeah, I don't blame you. I stopped playing after that whole launch bomb you mentioned. I mean, you couldn't even shoot over a rail. The gun would get jammed and stuck on a railing, I remember. There was a lot of things wrong, and like Ditch mentioned, it kept freezing, so I completely stopped playing until around 2009, around the time Cold Front was coming out. Everything was fixed by then, and it felt really good. It became my main multiplayer game to play, and I was disappointed about the no single player thing at the time, but I was willing to move past that, and I even got disappointed with a lot of fans that I always said it was the SOCOM 2 fans that made Confrontation be made to be just a run and gun game versus a huge, massive battlefield type of game. Because I used to look at SOCOM 3 and see helicopters and jets flying around, and I'm like, oh man, that's the future. That's SOCOM 4 right there. But that's only because I didn't come from a fan base that grew up playing 1 and 2.
And I'll say this for Slant 6 games, because I know we're not going to get into it as a topic, but they made Fireteam Bravo 3, which I really enjoyed. I had a lot of fun with that game. I thought its aesthetic and the way it was made was really good. It's kind of a shame that they moved on and did that on the PSP while still having the pedigree that they did with Confrontation.
Well, I still want to play it because I didn't play Fireteam Bravo 3. I was in talks with Slant 6 at the time, and they were very friendly, and I remember when they made Resident Evil Umbrella
Umbrella
something.
Corps.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. Enjoyed the co-op aspect of it. You could tell it was still, and you could tell though some of the gameplay was confrontation in there. But it was still fun. It was still fun to play. It was, I would say, a 6 below average or kind of average, depending on the fan you were of Resident Evil.
They were really making a name for themselves because at
Yeah.
one point before they were shuttered, they were also rumored to be working on Star Wars Battlefront 3 at one point.
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't know.
Where you could fly from space
Crazy.
to the planet without a cutscene. You could
Well,
actually-
well, let's not get careful, Ditch. That's my area of expertise. That was
Free
actually
radical.
yeah, it was Free Radical. Yes.
Awesome game.
I had something to say about confrontation real quick. It's sad that the game had so much potential, and I think Slant 6 got a worse rap than they deserved because Sony pushed them to release it. Sony
because
wanted
they had
them to
no
release
other
it
games
before-
at that point.
Before it was ready. I mean, they were like, we got to fix this and this, and
They
Sony,
definitely rushed
here's
it.
the release date, let's push it out. And so Sony, in my mind, Sony kind of screwed Slant 6 over by doing that. Because if they would have let them wait another 3 or 4 months to release the game, it could have been so much better and had a better reception and a better lifespan.
That
we
may be
coulda-
true, but
We
there
could have
was
got all those map packs.
possibly, but there was this guy on YouTube who removed his videos after he got kids. He used to rail on Slant 6 and Seth
Suck my
like
turban.
crazy. Who
He
was it?
Socom 4.
Nope,
He
that
did
was Suck My
Socom 4
Turban.
videos.
It was something Turban.
I don't know if he did
Suck.
confrontation.
Oh, Suck My
There's
Turban.
Black-
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
A lot of people knew him as Black Widow 88, right?
Black Widow
Yeah.
88, but he was Suck My Turban, and he had
Yeah.
Socom is Dead, and he had like a 35 video.
Yup. Those made
Look,
me
he was
die
around on-
laughing, man.
He was around on the PlayStation US forums when before Socom had their own official forums. They had a subsection in the PlayStation forums whenever the PlayStation was it like the doggone it, I just completely lost my thought. The club, you remember the PlayStation Gamers Club where they'd send you the hat?
I don't remember seeing that.
PlayStation Underground.
Underground, thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Yes.
The
And
red,
so
mag-
so he was Suck My Turban, I believe, on those forums that early.
yeah. Well, he had a good point where he was showing Slant 6 just partying, going to nightclubs instead of working on the game.
Wow.
I remember laughing about that. I don't know if it was true or not. But okay, let's move on to Mag. It was originally going to be called Socom Mag, but turned into this first-person shooter with 128 versus 128. It's one of my favorite first-person shooters. Again, it's a big battlefield. You parachute in. The strategy, left to right to middle, the way you attack the main bases. A few good videos back then where people got together as 128 and just attacked. I remember had a lot of good tactical gameplay. We'll start with Stunna again. What did you think of Mag? Should it
pretty
have
good.
remained Socom Mag instead of becoming Mag?
Kind of makes you wonder what it would have been like in third person called Socom, but I think if it would have came out like past 2020 with all these other Modern Warfare, Battlefield, Battle Royale games, like probably would have. It was like the start of those kind of games, really. And
But it had shitty. I think it had shitty vehicle driving. Didn't it have really stale gameplay and ugly graphics?
graphics were kind of just how you interpreted them. I kind of liked them. There was
Well-
3 factions.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sever, Raven, and what was the other one? Forgot. Valor.
But
They needed to notch down the graphics for better performance. I think that's why it was really bad.
I liked it.
What about you, Did?
You know, I tried it out, beta or something, that I bought it used. It was a cool feature, and I remember them saying in the release trailer for it, they're like, yeah, it was going to be a third person. They said we thought the trailer kind of video would show you, but that it was a cool game, had a lot of cool ideas, but to me the guns felt weak and tinny. The vehicles, like all the other Socoms, the vehicle control sucked. I mean, it was a
I
fun
don't even
game.
remember vehicles in it.
In Mag, yeah, you had APCs and stuff. You parachute in, but the
They had tanks,
vehicles,
I think.
yeah. And I tried out with the right group of people. You could have fun, but it doesn't seem like you ever saw 100 people on the screen at the same time in the same area. It's like it separated you up somehow. But
It was
Yeah,
huge
you did.
map.
huge
It was
map.
unbalanced, like you said. I remember sever guns were a lot
Yeah,
stronger
there was
than.
definitely one faction that was stronger than the others.
Yeah, you had medical tape on your AK-47 and stuff. It was kind of funny, but it was a cool concept. I had some fun with it. The guns just felt weak, but the progression, you could like upgrade your guy and all the attributes and stuff. And yeah, Mag was fun. It's just
Wrong
a
time.
lot of unrealized potential with the technology now. They could make it so much better.
If they did
Oh.
if Sony did a game like that today, it would actually probably go somewhere.
No, man. Concord. What are you
I
talking?
mean, isn't PlanetSide 2 still free to play, but it doesn't even pick up that much interest, and it's essentially like that.
Yeah, I did try PlanetSide as well. I think it's not as fast paced though.
Dust 514 similar.
With Eve Online, is that what Dust 514?
You know, the PC can crosstalk to it.
Yeah, it is then, right? I thought that shut
Yeah.
down, I remember, or only the console version. One or the other. Anyways, Hitman, your experience with Mag if you played it?
No, I didn't. Like I said, I missed that whole PS3 era.
Are you hoping it comes back on the servers for whoever's making it? I think
Snake wanted to bring it back. I think he's still working on it.
Yeah, that was rumored like 3 years ago. People were working on bringing. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't ask you. Did you play Confrontation or Mag on the emulator, or would you play Mag if it came back on the emulator?
I mean, yeah, I probably would. You know, I know we don't say this out loud, but the cost to me is negligible, right? To do it that way. So, of course, I'd try it. All I'd be sparing is some time, but I don't have any particular interest in pursuing it other than if somebody just handed it to me on a silver platter.
Oh, okay. So did you play Confrontation or no?
No, I haven't.
Oh.
Now, the Confrontation is something that I'd like to try on the emulator at some point, but I believe they're still working a lot of kinks out.
Yeah. When I tried it 60 frames, it's pretty good now. I recommend it. Okay.
Well, maybe you can help me with that later.
Is Snake gonna
Yeah,
even improve that emulator anymore? Is he working on Socom 4 and Mag? Like no one knows
so
anymore.
we can move on to Socom 4, which is one game that he's working on it as a side project, he said. Your experience with it, number one, did you say you got it or no?
I did buy it and I was really hyped for it. Played the beta. It was nothing like SOCOM. Everyone was freaking out. They were trying, and then Zipper was trying to revert changes real quick. They were fucking around with the crosshairs, but it was no matter what they did, the damage had been done. Like there was no saving that game. I paid for the like that move controller. It had the move gun. And I bought like it was special edition. I paid like 150 for it all. Barely got used.
Glowing dildo.
Yep.
All right,
But
did?
it was
sorry.
just
Is it?
it was just not a good SOCOM.
All right, did?
I remember the forums back then. There was a lot of talk around that game. They had 18 people remember Lukenbacher and those guys and Tombstone for You. And well, actually, he was invited but didn't go. I know a couple of guys that went, and they're like, yeah, they kind of had their mind made up on how the game was. They didn't really care about our input. I remember a bunch of the guys saying that, and they
What do you
said
mean they didn't care? Like you'd give feedback and the developers would just ignore it?
I think
Zipper?
they couldn't really do much because of how Sony wanted the game to be. They
their
were trying to get
attitude
the Call of
was,
Duty.
yeah, they kind of had it made up how the game was going to work, and like some of the SOCOMers were like, this and this, change this or don't do this or add this, and you don't have pistols in the game, and they're like, they didn't really care about our feedback. It's just a PR stunt. They gave them all, hats and shirts and flew them out to Zipper, which would have been a cool experience or a cool new experience, as they said. They said at the time. People are always teasing Travis Steiner about that. But so they flew the 18 people out. They come back, tell us about it, the TRS forums and the PlayStation forums at the time. And they're like, yeah, there's two primary weapons. the camera view is a little bit different. There's no pistol, even though there's a pistol in the loading screen. You can't use a pistol in the game. It doesn't have SOCOM game modes, and when you play the game, it just doesn't feel like SOCOM. So I get the beta for the game, and I can't remember what you had to do to get the beta, but I got the beta. I'm like,
I think you had to like get a different game, and then
you had to pre-order
they
some
had-
other game or something.
Yeah, it was
right?
like Resistance 2 or something.
I think it was Mag, wasn't it? Or
Might have
or
been
just
Meg.
a pre.
Might have,
But yeah,
might
it
have
was
been
pre-order a separate
Oh.
game and gave you a code.
So I played it, and I'm like, it's kind of fun, but it's not SOCOM. Like if they called it anything else, it would be fine. But
Exactly.
people are expecting SOCOM, and it's not, and that's what pissed us off. They're just selling it off the name SOCOM.
If it was just a new IP, it would have done better.
Did it
Yeah.
have U.S. Navy SEALs in the title or no?
Yeah.
It did.
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't buy it. I boycotted. I was pissed. So
Oh, you didn't end up
It
getting.
does have it, yes. U.S. Navy SEALs, yeah.
SOCOM, UNSOCOM 4 comes out, and what happens on release day? Somebody hacked the PlayStation Network, and it was down for 3 weeks. I was laughing my ass off so hard. That's when I started my YouTube channel, and I started playing SOCOM 2 again on my backwards compatible PS3. And I'm like, well, the PlayStation Network is down, but you still go back and play these games that have their own, have their own servers you can get online. And I thought it was awesome. That helped drive the nail in the coffin of UNSOCOM 4 was the server being down for 3 weeks. People were going nuts, getting pissed, crying about it. And I'm like, there's other online games to play, guys.
Yeah, if I recall, people went back and played all the old ones after that happened.
I went back and started replaying. That's where I met Drumcat, my buddy Drum. I met him on SOCOM 2 and started doing classic SOCOM Fridays. We started playing old SOCOMs every Friday night after that until they shut the servers down.
Sweet. Well, we should probably promote that every Friday. The People server, get on SOCOM 2.
Unmodified, unaltered. It's vanilla, just like the game was back in the day.
Hell yeah! All right, Hitman.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't play, and I think it says a lot about the reception of SOCOM 4 that they used the move peripheral, and they made they had the gun where it could click into, and then for PS4 they had the eye and the PSVR that would use the move controllers, and they even came out with like Firewall, and they came out with another peripheral. I thought it was pretty wild that they didn't want to try to adopt the move peripheral into that VR space because I guess just not enough people adopted it. Everybody poo-pooed on it because it didn't turn out to be the SOCOM they wanted it to.
Yeah, I agree.
The death of SOCOM.
I got it. I was disappointed by the campaign. You were playing as NATO. Like, what's going on here?
Not
I
your
don't
grandpa's
think-
SOCOM, remember?
Oh yeah, was
They're
that the
saying,
quote?
We're making the SOCOM we want to make, not the fans. It's not your grandpa's SOCOM.
Yeah, but they still used the title to get the sales. It was like you could. I guess you could call that a scam, right?
Well, in the EU they called it SOCOM Special Forces
Oh, I didn't know that.
in the PAL territories.
Okay, that explains something. But anyways, I played the campaign. It does have some twist in there, which is they tried to get to this point where it's a lot more, what do you call it, dramatic, I guess.
Mhm.
And I will give them some props for that. And the co-op was fun. I did enjoy a lot of co-op. But when I was playing multiplayer, it just felt like a third-person Call of Duty respawn game. So I kind of set it down until it was someone named Jeremy, I think, on Twitter. I started conversating with him. I was showing him my mag kill streaks at the time. And I guess that's how we got to talking. And then he started showing off all these new things they were going to do with SOCOM 4.
That'd
They
be Jeremy Dunham.
Yep. They started
I
showing
remember that
off
thing, yeah.
all the like they were saying, okay, we're listening to the fans now. We know we fucked up and we're gonna get it. They put it in demolition. Yeah, I think they changed the aimer. I'm not 100%. Maybe allowed you to change. I'm not sure about that, but
$1 short and a day late.
yep. And I think it was after Unit 13 as well. They're kind of updating both, and then they got shut down.
Interesting. They
Yeah,
got
he,
shut down. Yeah. after
there's
Unit.
even an interview with him where he's like, "What's going on? We were
I
ready
think
to kick
Zipper
this
lost
off
or
again."
Zipper lost Sony a lot of money on that one.
Yeah,
On
they
but
had
Unit
to-
13?
On SOCOM 4.
Oh yeah, because I was going to say Unit 13 was a pretty good game, but I couldn't blame a software developer for not selling enough copies of the game when the Vita just underperformed like crazy itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ironically, if they would have put PS2 classics on the store for the Vita, like the Socom resales would have floated that platform alone.
yeah. I mean,
Because if you recall, the PSP, you could play the PS1 classics, like the Siphon Filters and stuff. And then when the PS Vita was announced, I was like, yes, dual sticks. We're gonna have PS2 classics in our pocket, and they never added PS2 classics to the store.
yeah,
Sony has so much wasted potential. Like the PSP and the PSP Vita had all these cool features that people didn't even know about. I'm like, why don't they advertise this crap? People would buy them if they knew about all these features they had. Like, do you remember in the PlayStation 3? This is getting off topic just a little bit. The PlayStation 3, you had that voice chat where you could see each other. It was kind of like this right here, and you could see each other on your screen. You guys remember that?
no. Which voice is
Play-
it? The camera?
PlayStation 3 had a party chat. You could go into a voice party chat
Yeah,
just like what
yeah,
we're
I
doing here.
did.
PlayStation 3
And
had that.
you
The
could
cool
throw up
thing
your
is,
you could throw up your camera.
While
yeah,
in
you turn
game?
on
Are
your
you
camera.
sure?
You could
I had
transfer it.
one of those cameras.
Here's the thing, guys. You'd be in your voice chat like we are now. You could transfer it to your PSP and like walk out to your mailbox and like see the guys on your PSP and be talking to them while you're. I did that sometimes. I'd be
That
in a
was
voice
remote
chat, talk
play.
with guys, remote play, and I would go outside. I'd be on my PSP talking to the guys like it's a cell phone. I'd go to my mailbox and stuff and come back. And there were some racing games. Somebody's like, you can use that thing as a rearview mirror in your racing game.
I remember that. Yep.
I'm like,
You,
dude, why don't they advertise that? That's cool for people who are into racing sims. That's rad. You can put that up above your TV like your rearview mirror.
yeah, it's like Sony. I think they see the sales and then they give up. Same thing for PSVR. And I was surprised to see PSVR 2 come out because it looks like they abandoned that too.
They come up with
They've
cool.
dropped the price by $200, and it's still not selling. Still not being adopted.
Yeah,
You guys
it's
know
ridiculous.
before the Kinetica came out on the Kinect on the Xbox, right? That camera. PlayStation 2 had a camera, and they had some pretty cool games for it. I have two of them. I have one called Kinetica, and then Anti-Grav, where you're on a hoverboard, and it's exercise. You're sweating
Well,
by the end.
Did you know, Ditch, that SOCOM, the original, was made on the Kinetica engine?
Yeah, you told me that a long time ago. With
SOCOM 1 and 2. SOCOM 3, I believe, had its own proprietary engine.
so they felt a little bit different, but it's like Sony had all this cool technology before other people did, and they just didn't utilize it. It was like wasted potential.
I agree.
And then
man.
all of a sudden, the Xbox 360 comes out. They got a camera. Let's play Fruit Ninja. It was like a big deal, and it's like Sony had that crap. Sony had that crap on the PlayStation
Yeah,
too.
you could play a card game on that camera. I remember, Ditch. I don't know if you had that game.
I have it. Eye of Judgment.
Yup. Yeah.
I
that's the
remember
name.
that game.
The Eye of
That's
Judgment.
what I
I
played.
have that game. I've played it like once with my wife, and she spent like all night playing with her brother one time. They love that game, and it's like Sony had such cool things that they just never took the full potential of that they could have.
Yeah, and it had a mic on it. I think you were able to voice chat just on the camera, if I recall.
Yeah.
All right, so we're doing pretty bad on time, so we can jump to the end discussion topic, unless you guys want to keep going about
Would that
indie
be drama?
projects. Yeah, or we can continue this in a part 2 about all the indie games. Let's get a vote on it, Stunna.
We could just skip to end discussion.
Ditch,
I'm good with whatever.
Hitman.
Yeah, let's go to the end discussion just to knock it off the checklist, and then we can always do a follow-up that's just game-centric.
Yeah, because I think these topics on these indie SOCOM
They're
successors
gonna
are
take
gonna
a while to get to.
yeah. So look forward to part 2, whoever's listening. But let's get to the end discussion here. So the future of SOCOM and thoughts of a return. Start with you, number 1, Stunner. What do you think on that topic?
They have two options at this. They can go the SOCOM 5 route, and just if they were doing that, then they would just call it SOCOM U.S. Navy SEALs, just a full reboot.
How would it play?
How would it play? Probably, I would say closest to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. It would kind of be like that, but the multiplayer would be like SOCOM 8v8. That's the way I would go.
Which
I wouldn't
SOCOM?
bother going SOCOM 2.
Oh, so you want
That's-
SOCOM 2? Okay.
That would they go back to the roots and like go with that 8v8, no vehicles, no big map.
Aimer up top, center screen.
Yeah. No shoulder camera, no sprint. Basically, go for that SOCOM 2 gameplay, but monetize it, kind of like a Ghost Recon feel. Or they could try to modernize it and then add in like the bigger maps. But I think the first way I told you would be the way to go.
All right.
That's how I would do it.
What do you think, Ditch?
I think SOCOM's dead as we know it. It's never gonna come back how it was. They could make a game and call it SOCOM, but we'll all play it and be like, yeah, it's not like the old SOCOMs. They've changed it. It'd be cool if they did like a SOCOM retro. You know what I mean? But once upon a time, they had a poll: what Sony games do you guys want remade? And SOCOM 2, there was a huge effort behind it, huge push, YouTube videos and everything, getting people to go to Sony's website. SOCOM 2 won far and above anything else, and Sony didn't even mention it. They completely blackballed it.
Was it SOCOM 2 or all the SOCOMs remade?
SOCOM 2. It was a huge push for SOCOM 2.
It was remaster or remake?
SOCOM 2 HD for PS3.
So
just to remaster.
Yep.
That's all we wanted was remastered graphics and frames per second. You know, we just wanted to remaster. We didn't want them to change it and alter it. Remaster the game, and they completely ignored it. They're like, "Oh, the fans have spoken," and they named off some game like Spyro the Dragon or something that nobody cares about.
And Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, and it's like, you guys look at the stats here. Look at the polls. SOCOM 2 has way more votes than anything else, and they just completely ignored all and gave all the SOCOM.
Yeah, I think it was
gave us
as
all the
PlayStation, right?
Yeah, they gave us all the middle finger right there.
Crash Bandicoot with 81 million votes.
Yeah. Let's go Crash Bandicoot. Let's go Brandon.
Hitman?
I think that the industry standards today would not allow SOCOM to come back in a way that the old hardcore fans like us would want it to. I think SOCOM was kind of an experiment in less is more. It was very simple gameplay, and that's what we loved about it. And these days, the things that you have to do, you can't market a game unless it has, all this integrated, streamer support and things like that. The faces of gaming are not what they used to be, and so I don't think we'll ever see it come back. Now, will we see more passion projects? Yeah, I think so. But once again, and it really hurts the cause that we can play the originals now, because there's always a fallback option, and so I don't think we'll ever see SOCOM reach a level of popularity that it once did. I don't even think we'll get 20% there, to be honest with you. I wish it would, but I don't think so.
Well,
I like your comment. Less is more. That's so right in more ways than people realize. When they made SOCOM 1, they made the multiplayer as an afterthought. They made that as an afterthought. They patterned the missions off of real world missions, and they had Navy SEALs they consulted with. And David Troy Sears said himself, he's like, we added the multiplayer as an afterthought, and what we did was we kind of copied Counter-Strike and got rid of the monetary system and made it a little bit arcadey and made it third person, and that's the multiplayer.
And
they never dreamed it would be such a huge success.
When it launched, their rank system was broken, and when I was playing it, there was no rank system. There was no clan support. It was just find your server, like Ditch was saying earlier. Find your server, coordinate with your friends with your cell phones, and get together. And when they re-added the ranks in, it actually, I felt like it affected the network negatively.
You talking one or two?
On one. I felt like we saw a lot more lag and disconnect issues after they re-implemented the rank system. And I don't think in its lifetime, other than a handful of people playing game battles, I don't think anybody cared about what their rank was. I mean, it became a meme, to be the, butter sticks and things like that. But beyond that, the gameplay was the everything.
okay. And I guess I'll just give my opinion, and we'll call it here. So what I think they should do, which they're not gonna do, and I agree with you, Hitman. If we're lucky to get even 20% there, Sony's refusing to listen, and you see it with Concord right now. But if they do want success, you can't make a SOCOM 5 and make it play like SOCOM 2. The only way fans are gonna accept it is if you remake them, SOCOM 1, 2, and 3. And I don't think they're gonna use the budget to remake them in like 4K graphics right now on PS5. I mean, fans would still accept remaster because you saw with Star Wars Battlefront, only if it's done right, not the way it was done with Battlefront 1 and 2. Fans hate that right now, but if they do it right, they can remaster it, they can release it on Steam and PS5, and even add a cross-platform to it. I would prefer they go with a remake, good graphics, but then it comes down to which game do you remake, because are they going to really spend the budget to remake all three? I don't think so. They could hold a vote, and I think SOCOM 2 would win, and they could remake SOCOM 2. I think that is the best guide to bring in fans back and releasing on PS5. And if you are going to make a new SOCOM 5 for PS5, it's got to go Ghost Recon. It's got to go huge. It's got to go open world. It's got to be modernized. But only if you're planning to remake the old ones or release the old ones with online.
In Stealthy, I think that it's going to take a special person from near the top to get involved and do that. Like, look at the way the industry is. Look at the culture of Naughty Dog. Look at the way that Neil Druckmann has just devolved from somebody who cared about story and the experience, and now I can't say this for him necessarily, but like a lot of those people in those places, they're driven by how can we monetize this? How can we keep this game alive 3 years down the road before we have to scrap it? How do we keep people interested in a candy store kind of way? And you know, probably one of the most qualified people that would actually maybe have the ear of Sony would be Seth Luisi, and that would be a disaster in itself. So who would it take to get in there, have the confidence of the publisher, and have the passion for what we once knew it to build it something from either from the ground up or remaking like you were talking about? I just don't see it happen in a SOCOM space.
True, and they're not going to bring back the SEALs to help them out like they did with previous games.
No, but
Especially nowadays with their DEI hires and you know.
But you know what's interesting though is that in 2021 they actually renewed the SOCOM, the Sony-owned SOCOM trademark for another 10 years. But it leads me to wonder, is there a project in the works? No, I don't think so. I think that if right now some indie studio came along with a just a powerful team of experience and talent and made a proper spiritual successor, and we're able to legally call it SOCOM Navy SEALs, I think it would bring up a lot of conversation about Sony's history that they just don't even want in the headlines.
Wow. All right. Any other final comments? Okay, then we can end here. And I do agree with you, Hitman. Time will tell, but less likely to happen. Thanks for joining, guys, though. Thanks, Hitman. Thanks, Stitch. Number one Stunner, setting this up, getting the script. Hope to talk to you guys soon again, and we'll tackle the indie titles that are currently in the works and that have currently already failed, some of them.
Look forward to part 2.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Thank you for having us on.
You're welcome, and I appreciate you guys. And see you in the online battles again. People server, SOCOM 2, let's go.
Friday night. We're both
I think
eating.
we're good. I think we're good.
Ditch isn't low, right? You guys can hear him good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just sucking on a piece of dark chocolate.
Oh, is that the way you swing?
70% dark.